management. My two other partners that co-host the Community Cafe with me, Chris Toman with First Option Bank and Glenn Stockton with Stockton & Stern, are not going to be here with us today. Some big news on the front of Glenn Stockton. He has been selected as a Republican nominee to run for one of the districts in the state of Kansas as a Republican senator. And there's a big night for him tonight to vote for him. So he'll get on the November 3rd ballot. So he wasn't able to join us here today. We are doing this live on Facebook Live as well as Zoom.com. So you might be watching us from different venues. And if you're watching this from Facebook, don't hesitate to click like or to click that share button to share us in this video with your friends and loved ones, if you would, please. Today, I have a rock star in my world, rock star in I think a lot of people's worlds. I have referred her to tons of folks, including my own personal self. I got JoLynn Tarantino with Reese & Nichols. She is an outstanding real estate agent in Kansas City. We're going to talk about how the real estate market is doing in Kansas City and kind of how the real estate market is doing in Kansas City relative to everything coronavirus and how things have affected her world, because we've been talking about how it affects the other world in the financial and the legal and the tax world. So we're going to talk about real estate here today. JoLynn, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Hi, Mark. Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate you asking me to do this. It's kind of fun and something different from my normal everyday inspections and crazy real estate world. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you're absolutely welcome. And let me just first start off by saying, I've given you tons of referrals, and every single person I've ever referred to comes back to me just with glowing rave reviews, and then they want to refer you as well. Not all financial advisors are created equal, as you know. Not all real estate agents are created equal, as you know. And I think you are an absolute rock star, and I really appreciate all that you've done for me and my family on our multiple transactions, but I also appreciate you representing me with all the referrals that I've given you, and you've done a great job for all of them too. So in fact, I have several people in the office that made sure they wanted to say hi to you today. So I have quite a few shout outs to JoLynn today.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, referrals are such a big compliment, as you know. It's a huge compliment, especially in my world where your name is kind of everything. I mean, people see my face, my name. They don't recognize me by my company, Reese Nichols. They recognize me by my face and name. So all those referrals is what keeps me going. And really, it's kind of what strives me to keep going and make sure everyone's happy. Because without that, I really don't have anything. So I appreciate it. It's always a huge compliment.
Well, today I wanted to kind of do this as a little bit more of an interview style. I got a handful of questions. I want to kind of pick your brain, and really no kind of limits here, just kind of let you freestyle with the answers that you feel is best. But let me start off with the first question I got here for you is, with the housing market seeming to be at a high right now, what can you tell me about the current market trends that we're seeing here in the Kansas City area?
So the market is definitely at a high. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing to note is, number one, it's busy. The coronavirus, COVID, has not really affected us as much as maybe some of us thought it would. In fact, it may have helped the real estate market in terms of the fact that people were home more. So they were able to get online. They're able to declutter their house and things. So people really jumped on it. I'll be honest, I panicked when COVID hit and thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to sell real estate from home? It's almost impossible, you know, but we got really creative and the market kind of followed suit. And right now, if you want to pull up, there's a blue slide that I provided you guys. It's got some statistics. So as you can see, and these are just some quick numbers just to show what's going on in the Kansas City market. Now this is just the greater Kansas City area, so not honed down to Johns County or anything like that, but basically this is just for August. So in August we had 44,130 homes that were sold. The average sales price was $284, which is up from 2019, and we can talk about that here a little later, but that is up. So that's the nice things, that this seller's market is really driving the prices up. We've had multiple bidding wars, so the average sales price is going up. And then as you can see, the inventory is down versus August of 19 by 51.5%. I mean, that is really the crazy part of this market and what's driving everything. And buyers are running when houses come on the market because we are such low inventory, a 1.4 month supply on the market right now. Meaning,
what does that mean, 1.4 month supply of market?
So basically, if there were no other houses to come on the market, let's say for right now, and it comes to a screeching halt and we've got 1.4 months of supply, based on the number of buyers out there and the number of supply that we have, we would only survive in real estate for basically 1.5 months is what that's saying. We've only got that much inventory compared to the amount of buyers we have. So that's not much. And I'll be honest, when it gets to that point, those are the houses that have been sitting for a little bit and just aren't really moving. So it gets very tough, which is why, again, I know I'm going to say this a lot, but that's why we keep saying it's such a great seller's market. When I have a house that is ready to go, meaning, you know, you've done all your decluttering, you've done your painting, you've gotten your house staged and ready, we've brought in photographers, I tell people, you might as well just leave for the day because you're going to have 20 to 30 showings today. And that's really what's driving it. It's just the fact that there's not a lot of houses. So when one pops up, people are running to go see them. So that's kind of the cool thing about the seller's market right now, but it's also a little stress. It creates stress for everyone because it really becomes a rush, and doesn't create a lot of time for people to think, but that's the market we're in right now.
Okay. All right. Let me get that slide off here for us here. All right. So then what would you contribute to why we have a seller's market right now? I mean, inventory is low.
Right.
So why are people not having houses for sale?
So as we just talked about, the low inventory, I think part of what contributes to the low inventory are several things that are going on. Number one, a lot of people are deciding to stay in their homes and maybe do some remodeling. You and I were just briefly talking about people that are putting in pools. You know, I think one big thing right now is people are saying, well, if I'm going to be home more, we're not out and about at restaurants as much, we're not shopping as much, we're not traveling. So they're really wanting to enjoy their homes. And a lot of people have decided to finish their basement because it was something on their list that maybe they would do it. Now they decided, you know, let's stay put, refinance, and take some money out and finish our basement. Speaking of refinancing, that's another thing that's keeping the market driving is these low interest rates. I mean, interest rates right now, I checked yesterday and they were at 2.75. I mean, it's crazy to have interest rates below 3%. You know, a few years ago, we thought it was amazing that they were in the fours. Now they're at 2.75. So a lot of people are staying put, refinancing, taking a home equity line of credit out to finish their basement, put in a pool, extend their master, whatever it is they wanted to do. So that's creating a low inventory. And then you have a lot of people downsizing also. I think a lot of people are moving from their big, large homes and kind of rethinking life a little bit and just saying, you know, is this really that important? Do I want to be taking care of this house? A lot of people are downsizing. So we're seeing a lot of these bigger homes go on the market and people are buying, you know, empty nester homes, reverses, things like that. But of course, there are people out there that are ready to go into their second home. So those are really driving that average price of that 284 to kind of 300 average sales price we just talked about are those people that, you know, maybe been in their first small little 2-bedroom ranch when they got married and now they're ready to have that bigger home because, hey, at a 2.75 interest rate, I could probably double the size of my home and I'm not even close to doubling my mortgage. If anything, it's a better investment. So you kind of have those different things playing into it. But that's really what's keeping the market going is that low inventory and those interest rates. Man, interest rates are just killer right now.
I've personally noticed with our clients, the low inventory, we've had clients try to put their house on sale and they're concerned about how fast it's going to go. But then, you know, they're talking to me ahead of time, kind of planning for it. But then they go talk to their realtor and the realtor's like, no, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. We're going to sell this sucker fast. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, I get a phone call back from them. Hey, we got a sold. We got offer that we've already accepted. And it's like you say, boom, it's a seller's market. There's way more buyers out there than there are sellers.
There really are. And it's just, you know, it does create a stress though. Like you just brought up, you know, people saying, hey, I want to put my house on the market. But then the next question is, a lot of people are a little bit hesitant and I have to do some kind of education and walking people through it, kind of hand-holding as far as, well, what do we do when my house sells on that first day? I don't have a house to go to. I have to be out of here in 30 days. So that's the tough part that I just do a lot of kind of coaching and walking people through and preparing for plan B, which may be a plan you don't love, which is possibly moving twice. Maybe you go to a rental for a few months while we figure it out. But then just doing my best to really kind of get all the timelines to work out. So It's kind of a crazy process right now, but I just tell people, you got to have faith in me, have faith. I know what I'm doing. I've done this a million times over, and I'll get you to the next step. But it's just being honest with people and planning. Hey, you might have to go live with grandma and grandpa for a few months while we figure it out. Can you go knock on mom and dad's door? If not, then tell me that, and let's figure out what we need to do first so that you are ready to go. So that's just a big part of my job too, is really lining people up for those next steps.
So a lot of things has cause and effects. And one of the things I've seen as the effects of this is people who are wanting to do additions, like you mentioned, do additions. Well, I was talking to somebody yesterday who was thinking about putting a pool in their house, but I also know other people who are just wanting to remodel and do things. The problem is there's so less contractors out there right now, and they're so backed up on those kind of projects that if somebody wants to do an addition on their house, they're a long ways out on that waiting list.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the flip side of people who, or the whole inventory of the houses right now. Now we're having people who want to stay in their home and add to it.
Yeah.
So it takes a while.
Absolutely. And you know, that's the other thing though, that I think, so just as an example, I have a house in Old Leawood that I closed on yesterday. We put on the market about a month ago, and a guy called me that was interested. I had it on the market the first day on the market. He called me and he said, hey, we've seen this house last time it was on the market about 3 or 4 years ago, just popped up again. My wife loved it. We were just getting ready to remodel our house, but we really want to come and look at this first. So I said, sure, come on over. So I met him there that night. It was the first day we were on the market, and we started talking, and he was about ready to put in, you know, a good $500,000 to do a renovation, add a complete second floor. You know, we're talking old Leawood houses, so a smaller ranch, a major renovation. Because of the timeline and the cost to do that, they just decided it was more cost effective to buy the house that was already done at this low interest rate and be able to close and move into it in 30 days versus waiting 6 months for the remodel. So there's definitely that going on too, where people are thinking, yeah, we're going to do this, and then a house pops on and they jump ship, you know? So it's a lot of up and down in real estate. We thought we were going to do this. Oh wait, now we're going to do this. But yeah, I would say that the construction and the time waiting and getting contractors is also driving people to say, all right, what's worth it? Do I want to stay put and live through the remodel, or do I just find something that I can do? Or the other thing I was just going to bring up, speaking of construction, is that that's what's really driving our new construction right now. I mean, new home sales are through the roof right now. A, because of the low inventory. You can't really find what you want unless you go build it. So new construction is really keeping our market going too, just so people can jump into what they want, build what they want, and not have to sit around and wait for that right house to come.
That's cool. Well, I have a feeling I know the answer to this next question, and it has to do with basically money, but how can you just explain to maybe to everybody who's watching this here today, how low inventory can affect the market, you know, and does this create a buyer's or seller's market? I know it creates a seller's market, but how does low inventory affect the market?
So the biggest thing that we've been noticing is, you know, it's driving the prices of these houses so high, which can really snowball into a lot of really great things, and then a lot of things that can really challenge our market. So the really great things are the multiple offers for sellers. You know, it's really, if you list a house correctly and you put it on the market at the right price, you're getting offers right now. I mean, I don't know the last time I wrote an offer under the list price. That day, I feel like right now is gone. If you want a house, you need to either offer full price or above. Just last week, I made an offer for a gal who's trying to buy a house in Olathe, and we offered $25,000 above what it was listed. There was 14 offers in one day, and we did not get the house. So someone offered over $25,000 over than us. So that's really what's driving all of this and keeping it crazy. Now, of course, that really puts a buyer in a really tough situation, because you're now pretty much outbidding yourself in a way. We don't know what those other offers are. I can't get that. The listing agent is not going to disclose that to me. That's a disservice to the seller. So it's really, you know, I have a lot of people say, well, what do you think? What would you offer? My answer is, how bad do you want this house? You know you're buying high. And I just tell people realistically, if you call me in 2 years and say, can I get this much out of this house in 2 years? I don't have a crystal ball. And right now it's just, I would like to say yes. I don't think our market is going to crash right now. I think these interest rates are going to keep going. But that's really what our problem is. And then we can also run into some appraisal issues. So with all these offers, just because a buyer is saying, oh yes, I'm going to offer higher than the next offer, and keeps going and going and going, you got to have a cap on it somewhere, because the appraisals are going to really dictate that price too. And that's what we're running into now, is where I feel like appraisers are saying, hey, I think that's great that you had 14 offers and you got 30,000 above list price, but I can't justify this based on comps. You know, they have guidelines they have to follow. So we don't get back into our 2008 situation of overvaluing homes and approving loans that people shouldn't be approved for. So that's why there's so many mortgage standards now and appraisal standards that we didn't have before. But that's become a problem, because then the house doesn't appraise. Now we have to go back. It just can create a really big mess. But the scary thing that buyers are doing right now is they're waiving their appraisals. They're saying, if you sell this house to me, I'll waive my inspections and I'll waive my appraisal. I mean, that's how strongly offers are coming in right now. I don't know that I'd recommend it, but people are doing it just to get the house. So it's just kind of crazy how it's all really affecting things. If you want to pull up that white slide that I provided you guys, I can go over some of the numbers just to kind of show you year over year. So I think it's interesting to look at the percentage in the middle there, percentage of original list price received. So a year ago in 2019, the percent was 98% of list, sellers were getting 98% of list price, whereas now it's 100.3%. So we're up 2.2% just on our list price value that we're getting, which is just showing you that there is no more, hey, can I offer 10 or 20,000 below list price and then we negotiate. The days of negotiating that are kind of gone right now. I think we'll get back there, but right now those are gone. It's literally, how bad do you want it? How can we get there? And as you can see, I know we were talking earlier about the low inventory and that 1.4% of supply. So the bottom three numbers shows you, so pending sales right now in August, we had 1,282 houses go under contract in August. That's up 28% from last year. And as you can see, our inventory was only around 1,100. So that kind of just shows you we had more sales than we had inventory. Obviously, that's due to new construction. Okay, people say, well, how's that possible? Well, that's new construction and buying lots and building. But that's kind of what I was talking about, where if we had no other houses come on the market, eventually the houses with only a month worth of supply are going to be gone. So that's kind of how you can look at the supply and what 1.5 months of inventory really means. On here, this has our August. Of course, this is just in Johnson County, where the first blue slide we were looking at was the whole Kansas City metro. So I just kind of thought maybe since, you know, my office, I work everywhere in Kansas City, Missouri. I'll go to Lee Summit. I was out at 190th and Flum yesterday at a closing. So I work everywhere, but I figured my main office is in Johnson County, yours is. So this is interesting to pull up. So the average sales price in Johnson County is actually $395, $577. That's pretty high for an average sales price. I mean, typically that sales price is closer to the $250 range. So our sales prices, our average sales price has really gone up. And again, I contribute that to the low interest rates. I just think people are able now to afford a little bit more house because that interest rate is so low. So I think that's kind of cool to see that. And then the average days on market right now says it's about 41. Of course, that's an average. I tell people, when you see a house that pops on the market day one, you better call or text me immediately, and we got to run out there in the next hour or two, because it's just crazy. So I urge people that houses are going to last more than a week, but our average across the board is 41 days on the market, which is really low. I know when I got into real estate in 2008, it was like, oh, 6 to 9 months is not a big deal to have your house on the market. Now it's like, if you're past a week, we're panicking. So it's interesting how it's definitely changed.
Okay.
But you can remove that slide if you want.
All right, so then let me ask you this. For sellers, what's the key to pricing a house correctly in this kind of a seller's market?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot, and a lot of people say, man, if it's so great, let's just throw it on the market. Let's ask $550, but you might be in a more of a $300 price range, you know? So I just tell people, slow down, like, just because it's a great time to sell. We also need to still be very, very realistic. The one thing I tell people all the time is buyers are smart. Buyers have the internet. They have Zillow. They have Trulia, which that's a whole nother live Facebook show to talk about Trulia and Zillow and how that affects our market. But basically, they have all these numbers at their fingertips. They can look up a seller's name. They can look on the county records. They'll know everything before I even get to the house. So I always tell sellers, listen, we still have to be smart. A buyer is going to walk through your house and know immediately if you've got it overpriced or not. And that's the first thing that's going to hurt you. So then you will be one of those houses that sits a little bit longer because you just shot yourself in the foot. So I always tell people we have to be really smart. We need to really look at comps. We need to really see what houses are selling for in the area. An appraiser is only going to go about a mile radius from your house to come up with an appraisal. And they're only going to go about 6 months back. That's all they're allowed to do. Now, if there's not many sales, you can go more than that. But so we just need to be realistic and smart. The biggest thing that really we look at is there's 4 things. So we look at location. We can't pick up your house and move it. So if you're out in the country and you're on all this acreage, and that's amazing, but that's only so many buyers that want to be in that location. So we have to look at location and what those houses are selling for. We get to really hone in on comps because of the appraisal. Last thing I want to do is get your house under contract for $300,000 and the appraisal comes in at $250,000. Now I've really done you a disservice. So it's in everyone's best interest to be smart about it and really look at comps that an appraiser is going to look at. The condition of the home is another thing. Buyers, not to be rude, but I tell people all the time, buyers are lazy right now. And one of the reasons is I think because they can be. They've got a crazy life with kids and work and everything. They don't want to come in and have to, oh yeah, I can paint the entire house or it needs new granite. The floors need to be refinished. They don't want any of that. They want it done. I mean, they just do. So I tell people the more things we can do to have your house ready to go before you go on the market, it does make a huge difference. If I tell you to come in and yeah, we need to paint the whole first floor and it's going to cost you $5,000, are you going to get every penny back? Can't guarantee that, but it's going to be the difference between selling and not selling. And to me, that's a big deal. And that's what I tell people. It's not always about getting that money back. We're in a high market. You're going to get the best value for your house right now. But it's the difference between selling your house or someone go to the neighbors because they did all those things. So that's a big thing. And then finally, updates. The one thing I tell people is a lot of people have pride of ownership. And I think that's amazing. You want to love your house. You want to love what you've done. But we also have to be realistic. And just because you put in the nice, amazing back patio with the fire pit and the outdoor kitchen, does that mean your house, because you spent $30,000 on it, can I up your house now by $30,000? Not necessarily. You never get 100% back. Tell people you do those updates for you, but we need to be smart about that. Again, if you've got a house down the street that doesn't have that, yeah, I think you're valued a little bit higher. But am I going to get you the full amount that you put in? Probably not. So it's really just looking at all those numbers, what you have versus the other house, what you need to do to make it show ready. Staging is a really big deal. So those are really the things that we can do to price someone correctly. But I tell people, don't come in and say, oh, it's a great market. Let's list it for 20 grand over and see what happens. Let's price it smart. And then guess what? You're going to get that 20 or 30,000 over because everyone's going to want your house. So right now we're pricing them to sell and to be smart versus overpricing in order to prepare to come down, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Well, I know you represent both buyers and sellers in these markets. Let me throw you a curveball and switch the question around. We've been talking a lot about sellers.
Yeah.
What can a buyer do to prepare themselves to negotiate in this kind of a seller's market?
Yeah. So it's crazy for buyers now. And it's rough because they feel like, and I have buyers that are coming into the market and they've made 5, 6 offers and they've lost out to multiple offers. So, and like I said earlier, people are removing contingencies. For example, they're removing appraisal contingencies, inspection contingencies. There's lots of things we're doing. I tell people I'm fine doing those things if you guys are comfortable, but I always want to explain what kind of a risk that puts you in as a buyer. But it's happening left and right. And so I think the biggest thing is to get in there quick. You need to be the first one to see it so that you have time to process, think about the price, think about if it's realistic, because right now that's what's hurting buyers is there is no time to think. And so they get overwhelmed. They make it just a quick decision, say, yes, I want to offer 20 grand over on this house. They get in it, and then they think, why did I do that? And that's the last thing I want. I don't ever want a client regret a decision for such a large purchase. So that's why I say, let's jump on it. You see a house that you think you absolutely love online or that came up in one of our searches, call me immediately. Let's go look at it. So that's the first thing, jump quick. So you can be one of the first people through the door. A lot of things you can do is put a quick expiration time. Now, expiration times can always be amended, so it doesn't always necessarily mean, so you put in an offer and you say it's, 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday, I want my offer to expire by 10 p.m. So you're telling Mr. Seller, I'm serious about this house. I want to buy your house, but I need an offer tonight. I need an acceptance offer tonight, or I have to move on to the next house. That's happened to me a couple times this week with sellers, and some of them have said, I'm giving it through the weekend. I don't want to make a rush decision. I'm going to let everyone through. And others have said, hey, that's an offer I can't refuse. I'll take it. So that's one thing people are doing, is trying to put a little bit of pressure on the seller so that they don't get into that 5 and 6 offer bidding war. You can remove your appraisal contingency. Again, I urge you to kind of really think about that. And I don't know if people understand what that means when you remove your appraisal contingency, but basically you are saying to Mr. Seller, if the house comes in under the value that I've agreed to pay, I will come up with the extra cash to close that gap, basically. So that's risky, and it's an unknown that I can't control, the buyer can't control, the seller can't control, but people are doing it. So
if the house does come back and they take that off, use an example. Let's say the house appraises for $300,000, but they put a contract on it for $340,000.
Mm-hmm.
The mortgage lenders won't lend money to the $340,000 price. They're going to lend more money towards the $300,000 price, meaning the buyer has to come up with that cash difference if they take that appraisal contingency off. Is that right?
Yep, you got it.
Got it.
So that's hard. I mean, I've had people do it, and the only times I've recommended it is when I really feel confident this house is going to appraise. There's been 10 houses in this neighborhood that have sold for that $340,000 price. This has more updates. I feel really good about it. And I've had people do it, and it's worked out just fine. Now, I will say, I just had an appraisal issue it was an acreage property on 5 acres out at 190th and Plum. And the appraisal came in much lower than the price. We had not removed our appraisal contingency, so it was fine. We had other avenues to figure it out. Had she have removed that, though, she would have had to brought an extra $50,000 on top of the 20% you put down. So you just have to really be financially prepared to do that if you want to do that. But that is what buyers are doing right now. And it's putting buyers and sellers in a tricky position. But that's what, unfortunately, it's the market we're in.
Well, one last curveball. I'm going to kind of give you a 2-part question here. I'll go with the first one, but it's on the same topic. How has the coronavirus, COVID-19, how has it affected the real estate world?
Yeah. So when COVID, all this started happening, I'm not going to lie, I panicked. How do you sell a house when you can't leave your house? It was tricky. It was tough. In the beginning, the biggest thing was, how do we get those homes that were already under contract sold? You've got bankers, you've got lenders, you have appraisers that now are working from home. And our job is really to be out in the field. It's really hard to do real estate from your house. I always used to joke and tell people, it's, oh, what office are you in? I said, well, I've got an office, but I'm never there. If I sit there, I'm not really working. Real estate, you've got to be out on the street. You've got to be showing houses. So that's really the biggest thing was, all right, I've got to get these deals closed in March when I have a lender now who just had to pick up his office, move it to his house. He's not in front of his underwriter. He's not in front of appraisals. And we still got to get this done because everyone's relying on this to happen. So that was the first issue, but we got through it. Everyone did a great job. I feel like COVID's really given everyone some grace. People have been really respectful of other people's situations. But I can say now that we're through kind of all of that, the biggest thing that I've noticed is just the way we show houses. It's just a little bit different. Just like the way we go to the grocery store is a little bit different. We're wearing masks, we're wearing gloves, we're bringing hand sanitizer. Agents are being really good about providing masks, providing hand sanitizer at the door, wiping things down. We're asking sellers to have every single light and closet door open and flipped on for us so that we have less things to touch, so we can respect that seller a little bit. So those are the day-to-day things. Open houses are still happening, but now we're just allowing one group in at a time. kind of the things you're seeing all over the board. We've just really tried to be cautious of the seller and respect them in their home, having strangers in, who knows what we have, what we don't have. So that's been the biggest day to day in terms of real estate. I will say there was a study that went out that interviewed agents about this. You know, how do you feel like it's affected? And it's interesting. One thing was, do you feel like buyers have interest in real estate has gone down since COVID? And I think the response was like 51% said absolutely not. Buyers are still out there interested. It hasn't affected us. Has COVID affected sellers' behavior? Most people, 38% no, said no. They're all still welcoming people in because I think they feel safe. We're doing the right thing. We've got the right standards. So that's a good thing. Buyers are still interested. Sellers still feel safe. So I think we've done our job and we've done it well with COVID.
Well, how about this last question on COVID? How's it affected, like, let's say, like the real estate investor, the people who have real estate that they rental properties? How's it affected them?
So that's been a little bit different because I think the unknown of, is my renter going to be able to pay me rent? So I have this investment property that I'm supposed to make my 1% a month on through rent. And am I going to get that now? Am I going to be upside down? Because if I don't get my rent, can I pay the mortgage? You know, so that's been tricky. I feel like a lot of people have said that the biggest thing is if they're managed by a management company. There was a part of this study that I was just referencing that interviewed agents about how COVID has affected us. Part of it was on investors. And astonishingly, a lot of the numbers said that COVID has not affected investment properties if they had a property management company involved. Because again, I think those companies set out the warnings for renters. Here's what we're willing to do. We'll give you grace for this, pay less this month. We'll catch up in this month. You know, they came up with plans with clients versus the investors who are trying to do it themselves without paying a property management company. Those people have hurt a little bit, I think, because they didn't quite have someone helping them walk them through the steps of this is how we need to help everyone. Luckily, mortgages lenders are giving people a little bit of grace as well. I know that I had a couple investors that were able to actually kind of not defer their payments for 3 months if they needed to. So I think there's been a lot of grace given. Those duplexes and fourplexes, I've had some investors that didn't want to deal with the unknown. They didn't want to deal with, am I going to have renters in a month? They went ahead and put them on the market, sold them the first day with multiple offers. So the investors are still out there. Again, I think it's really the ones that have the property management companies that are able to help them, guide them through the steps of how do we protect everyone in this. But then I have some that are backing away from it a little bit. I don't know, in your world, I'm sure you deal with a lot of investors obviously as well. I don't know if you've seen anything with that as far as your clients that have investment properties. Have you noticed any decline?
Yeah, I've seen what you're talking about. I have quite a few clients. I've got a bunch of clients, I should say, that are landlords, whether it's commercial or residential, and that's their thing. They have a mortgage, and they're required to make that mortgage payment. But with the CARES Act, they can't evict anybody who lost their job due to coronavirus, and so they are concerned if they're getting their money. And so what they're doing is they're being forced to kind of renegotiate things with their renter and at least collect a little bit of money. And what money they don't collect, they kind of tack it on the back end of the lease deal, and trying to be somewhat friendly because you really can't kick them out, but yet you want to collect some money, and collecting some money is better than no money.
Sure.
And I found that, you know, they're just changing their opinions. They're just trying to be more flexible because they're kind of being forced to be flexible. Yeah. But the tenant isn't hurting as bad, even though they might have lost their job, as much as the landlord is hurting because they're the ones who are financially liable. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who can foreclose and have bad credit and all that kind of stuff. So there's some concern, but fortunately for us, our clients that have a lot of rental property also have a lot of other money with us in other places. So they have other resources that they can lean on. And if that rent income is low coming in, they just take other money from our other accounts with us to continue paying their bills and, you know, living their life. So it's not hurt them financially that way, but yeah, they're just not collecting the money for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I noticed. But like you said, I think everyone's trying to give each other grace right now, which is one of the things I've seen that I think has been a really positive thing from all this, is that sellers are respectful of buyers' situations. Same here, investors, tenants. I feel like everyone knows we're all in the same boat. So give a little grace, step back, take a deep breath. And I feel like everyone's done a really great job.
Well, JoLynn, I just want to say thank you so very much for being a part of today's Community Cafe. This was awesome. It's great to see you again. I love talking to you. You are clearly very brilliant in your industry. I know when my next real estate deal comes in, I'm always going to be talking to you and anybody else I'll be referring to you as well.
Well,
So
thank
thank you so
you.
much for being a part of today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Absolutely. And for everybody who's watching here today, if you're watching this on Facebook, do me a favor, go out to our Facebook page called Community Cafe and click follow, click like us, share us on your Facebook feed so you can share us with your friends and your loved ones on this topic. This was a great topic here today. Next week, Glenn Stockton's going to be back on Community Cafe, and he's going to be interviewing Chief Strategy Officer of Olathe Health, Mike Jensen. So we'll get Glenn back on next week. So everybody be healthy, be safe. Thanks for watching here today. Thank you again, JoLynn.
Thank you. Bye, Mark.
All right, see ya.